So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. And I hope you will you will give me a bit of a break. I've got one eye on Newcastle and Everton here in the corner just as this stopped. So I was kind of going, what's happening? The game is nearly over, but it's always good to kind of scout our next opposition, but we don't want to look too far ahead. Don't want to look past the foes that we have tomorrow, and in the form of Leeds United, and it's one that I'm really looking forward to. 16 days, I think somebody told me this morning, since Aston Villa last played, and it's been 16 long days, so I'm really looking forward to it. Paddy, how have you been keeping? What's your
not too bad at all, not too bad. Missing the Villa all right, so I'm looking forward to having football back tomorrow.
Yeah, and like under lights at Villa Park is always good. So I can imagine that there'll be some atmosphere there tomorrow. It'll be one I'd love to go to. But it was it wasn't originally supposed to be on a Wednesday night, if I'm not mistaken. It was moved.
No, it was supposed to be on over Christmas. It was the one that was cancelled the week between Christmas and New Year. It's a pity because it's one of the ones I would have liked to go to, but midweek is just so hard with taking time off work and stuff like that. So
and also
don't have any great love for Leeds, so I would have liked to have gone and joined in the atmosphere, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's like even midweek games, they're tough enough to get to, even from Ireland, because the flights, depending on where you're flying from, and sometimes depending on the day as well, there isn't always flights. So so keep that in mind, Premier League, and stop dicking us over here. All right, we need our games. We need to at least have the opportunity to go to them. And I don't fancy driving doing what is it, Dunleary to Holyhead, and then driving over that way. I really don't fancy doing that either. So
obviously haven't done that in a long time, because they haven't gone from Dunleary in about 20 years.
I couldn't think of anywhere else, Betty. I was going to Rosslare. Dunleary to Holyhead is gone a long time. Yeah, a long time. Larne to Stranraer and drive down that way.
Oh, jeepers. No thanks.
Catch all the scenery. But no, we've Leeds tomorrow. Leeds versus Aston Villa tomorrow, and it's a lot of stuff. I suppose really to unpack. I think we'd Stephen Gerrard's press conference. We deliberately didn't go last night or before this, because I suppose after 16 days out, you want to hear what Stephen Gerrard has to say. You want to hear what way people came back from international duty. You want to hear, what the kind of there was a lot of smoke and mirrors and tales coming out of those two behind closed door friendlies that turned out not to be true. And you just kind of, for me, I just wanted to hear it from the man himself, and that's why we kind of waited for today. And while he never gives away too much in a press conferences, he basically said we're as fit as we're going to get, bar Leon Bailey and Bertrand Traore. But Traore should be back in the country soon, and Leon Bailey is. We've seen pictures of him training today, so that's all good news, I think, from that point of view. That Aston Villa are a fit team at the moment for the first time in a long time.
Well, that's it. We got a clean bill of health from next week. Well, from the end of this week. This game has obviously come too soon for Leon Bailey, but he'd be available for the weekend. Whether he comes back in or not now is another story, but he's available. So the stronger the squad is, the more people have to be on their toes. So looking forward to seeing us back with a full bill of health and seeing what way he puts us out on from next week on, I suppose.
Yeah, it's slow. Yeah, look, it's going to be one of those. Tomorrow's team sheet tantrum, and we may not have a team sheet tantrum. If we do, unfortunately, I won't be here. Paddy may be manning the team sheet tantrum tomorrow. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it just due to some home commitments. But it will be one of the more interesting team sheet tantrums, because, as I say, we've got a full palette of colours to paint from. And that hasn't really happened. Back four should be nice and solid. I would imagine there'll be no changes there. Obviously, our goalkeeper is going to be our goalkeeper, our Superman in goals. And then midfield trio, I don't think are going to change. McGinn, Louise, Ramsey. But the top three, I think, are really going to be the talking point. Coutinho, Buendia, and maybe
Watson.
Coutinho, maybe Buendia, maybe Ings, maybe Watkins. Who knows? Because we've got a lot of talent up there, and we've got a lot of people fighting for those three places. So I think that's where a lot of those conversations are going to come from.
I don't see any worries there. It's going to be Buendia, Coutinho, and Watkins, judging by what went on last week with the two friendlies. Let's say they're getting prepared for that. So that's how I see them line up. There won't be any tantrums, I would imagine, an hour before kickoff. It'll be fairly straightforward. And I suppose the opposition is where we got to look at and who they got available. And there's a lot going on there. They've had a very jumpy season. They've pulled off a couple of funny results, and then they've just been steamrolled at times by other teams. So they've had a rough time. I would have preferred to play them Christmas week, but we have them tomorrow, so we just got to do our best.
Just before we get on to talk about Leeds, I suppose you mentioned a good point there about behind closed doors friendlies that we had. One against Brentford, obviously we won that 2-1, and one against Mold where we won 3-1. Watkins scored in both, but there was a gentleman that it seems to have made the step up. He wasn't named in the under-18 squad last night. He's played 9 games for the under-18, scored 5 times this year, and that's Tommy O'Reilly. And there's a lot of chatter that he's going to be named in the game day squad next tomorrow. So that's really exciting, when we've got the likes of Carney Chuck. I'm going to butcher his name. Someone told me how to pronounce his name just before the break, and I haven't been practicing. Chukwuemeka, I think is how they said we were supposed to pronounce it. And because I always put the M before the W. So it's always exciting when we've got Carney. Okay, that makes it easier. And young Tim. Okay, that also makes it easier. On the bench. But obviously, if we've got somebody like this, like Tommy O'Reilly, and it's Tommy with an I as well, which is also fantastic. Tommy O'Reilly on the bench. It just shows that the academy has been given a lot of leeway to break into the team. Also, go back to those to that training video today, which I thought was kind of cool. That training video where they had that skills challenge at the end. They did a 5-minute video of a skills challenge. By the way, Courtney House going around the poles was absolutely hilarious. I thought he doesn't have the dexterity to get around the poles with the ball on the ground.
Must have missed that one.
For sure. But it was actually surprising because a couple of the guys, you could see that it probably was a while since they had to do that drill of having to dribble in around static poles. But when you looked at those videos, there were a lot of young kids up there. There was Ben Crescene was up there as well, So we talk about filling out the squad and having players, we let Mark Target go. The club brought in Ben Crescene, and he played for I'm pronouncing his name incorrectly as well. I think it might be Crescene. I don't know. Someone will tell me how to pronounce his name. But they brought him in from Exeter, and they seem to think that he can be the auxiliary left back, as time goes on. Obviously, Young is there as well, but he's 37 years of age. But there's good depth, is what I'm trying to say here with the young kids that we have. And, I think it's going to be interesting to see if any of them get any game time over the next coming weeks.
Yeah, I started following Tommy O'Reilly on Twitter and Instagram, and he looks like a guy who's just won a competition to train with a Premier League team, and he's living his best life. And he shared a picture today of him celebrating the 7. They obviously won the 7-a-side today with the team he was on, and you're looking around at international players on a 7-a-side team. He must be literally pinching himself. So he is obviously in around the squad for tomorrow. Someone will be left out, whether it be him or young Tim or whoever it is. I can't imagine young Tim be left out because we'd have to worry about central defensive midfield then. But maybe that's our new signing from Arsenal that will be the cover from there. So we might not have to worry about it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think the two defensive players that would be on the bench would be House and Chambers. And I think they'll be in there. I just don't see him as a defensive midfielder. 100% willing to be wrong on that. But against Mold, he played centre half because Kanza wasn't in the squad. And, I was delighted not to hear Kanza's name mentioned by Stephen Gerrard today because he didn't even play against Mold at all. Mold. at all. So
I got an
it's
awful smacking over my pronunciation of that last night.
I went and I looked at pronunciation at some pronunciation videos, and some people pronounce it mold, some people pronounce it molde. So there doesn't seem to be a consensus. But then again, I'm not Norwegian, so I'll stick to. I'll keep my head below the parapet in this one, because I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right either.
Right.
But it's so like he played at centre half against Molde, and I think that's probably where he will be. I think he's going to be on the bench. If he is on the bench, he's going to be a substitute, fill in for the defence. And I think young Tim has just done too much not to be on the bench, if that makes sense, in the Camba's absence. I know he hasn't seen any time in Premier League action, but they keep putting him on the bench for a reason, and they haven't loaned him out. So nearly everybody who had a pulse was loaned out there for a while, So it's a case of they must see something in him and that he can contribute at the top level.
Absolutely. Look forward to seeing him doing it. Am I correct in saying Tommy O'Reilly's Irish? Or Irish descent?
He's English, but with O'Reilly, look, he surely has to be able to come over to our side, doesn't he? I don't know. Yeah. If we start calling him Tomas O'Reilly, then he'll have to play for us. He'll have to play for us over here in Ireland. That's what he'll have to do. There was a bit of, there's a couple of comments here before we get on and talk about Leeds, and specifically, I suppose, into the Leeds game in particular. There's a couple of comments there, and we mentioned Bailey, and Ad mentioned that anyone see the Villa report about Bailey saying major announcement tomorrow. Apparently it's a documentary. That his father has been putting together. So I wouldn't imagine it's anything too major, even though he did say major announcement on it. Just don't see it being a new contract. He hasn't done anything for us to deserve a new contract unless it's revising his wages down. I don't think the club are going to be dropping a new contract on him. I don't think it's going to be a loan to a Turkish team with their window still open.
That closes tonight, so that's that.
Closes tonight, but maybe he's going to announce it tomorrow. No, it seems to be some sort of documentary. I think that seems to be the consensus, that it was mentioned in his homeland that it was going to be a documentary about his time in the Gold Cup and then moving to Aston Villa. Yeah, that seems to be what it is. But don't know
if that's what it is. Grand, but if that's not what it is, Mr. Bailey, please don't be making major announcements on match day. That's rule number one as a player. If you're not involved, don't be looking for the limelight when you're not there. So
myself and Paddy have talked about this on WhatsApp.
Yeah, don't be making major announcements on match day. It's not good.
This is where Paddy's the yin to my yang. I couldn't give a shiny shite what he does on match day because he's not involved unless he locks them in the dressing room and makes them watch the documentary before the game and gets them out of line. I don't think it has any effect on the game whatsoever. But as I say, it's needless kind of distraction maybe. But fair play to him. I say, I can't imagine.
Still rule number one as a professional footballer is stay out of the limelight on match day. The only thing that matters on match day is match day and the game itself. So, anyway, there you go. That's my little rant over for the evening.
if the production of the documentary is anything like the production of the video for when he signed his contract, we're really in for a treat. Remembers that. We're really in for a treat then if that's the case.
I remember watching. If you remember, I went on holidays when all that was happening. I was staying in a former mental asylum. I was actually in Sligo at that stage, and we had Jack leaving. We had Danny Ings signing and Leon Bailey giving that press conference. It was just like, what the hell is going on with our club?
Yeah,
all in the space for a few days. So I couldn't wait to check out of that hotel. That's for sure.
It's madness. Yeah, it was a crazy few days. That's a day. That's going to be a week of folklore, I think, in Aston Villa fandom anyway, for sure. But yeah, look, the squad tomorrow I think is going to be vast. It's going to be it's interesting that we do have all these players back, and the rumors are that Tommy O'Reilly is going to potentially make the match day squad. If not, he will definitely be in what's termed the traveling party, even though we are the home team. He will be there in the match day. What's the extended squad? How many numbers is it? I can't remember, but extended match day 20.
18 plus 2, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. But look, it's great for him. He he looks like a child, when you look at him in that. He looks like a mascot for the 7-a-side team. But you see the clips of him playing, you know, in those training videos, and he looks like he picks out a beauty of a pass to Ings in one of those videos as well, which is fantastic. So, you know, it doesn't really matter how he looks. It's if he can play in a team, it's good. So yeah, Rob Henry says not okay to post a picture, specifically not after the match and not after we lose heavily. That's definitely not okay. Definitely not okay. But Leeds have their own issues. You kind of alluded to it a minute ago, Paddy. You know, Leeds are going to be without Calvin Phillips. They're going to be without Liam Cooper. They're going to be without Bamford, Firpo. Matthias Klick, I think, is missing as well. I'm open to correction in that. Maybe he's not. But they do have. They have been playing Robin Koch and Adam Forshaw in that kind of in those 6 positions. So maybe Klick isn't actually injured. Maybe he might be back in there tomorrow. But he's somebody I don't want to see play because he always saves his best for Aston Villa and he's always around every blade of grass. Himself and Stuart Dallas just always play brilliantly against Aston Villa. But like even though they're down those players, they're still going to be a formidable outfit tomorrow. And you know, they're in a lowly position in the Premier League, granted to where they were last season, but they're still going to be a formidable outfit, Paddy, because they still have a bit of firepower there.
Well, I think the thing with Leeds is on paper they're a smashing side, but the game isn't played on paper, and you just don't know what way they're going to turn up. Yeah. They've gone like they beat West Ham 3-2 was the last time I saw them a good few weeks back now. Harrison scored a hat-trick. Yeah. And that was the best I'd seen them play all season, and I just thought it's just typical now going into playoffs they play that way. You know, but it's kind of a 4-1-4-1 formation when they have the ball. So it's quite attacking. There's a lot going on in it. It's, you know what they're going to get. You're going to get the pace. You're going to get the intensity. And you just all we can hope for is we go out and get an early goal and quiet them and put them on the back foot. So it's going to be a really interesting game. I think this is a really big test for us, and I'm quietly optimistic, but I'm looking forward to seeing what team we put out first.
You mentioned, Paddy, that you would prefer us to play them over the Christmas period. And initially, I thought that was probably the right time to play them because they were on a turgid run of form and they had injuries and they were playing.
And they were ravaged with injuries and COVID.
Yeah. And they had a ton of kids out. But I'm kind of thinking that of all the teams in the Premier League, we needed a 2-week mini preseason more than a lot of teams. Probably more than any team, I would nearly go so far as to say. A lot of teams were trying to get fit. We were trying to get to gel. That's what we were trying to do. We were trying to gel our team together. And when you look at it, I know we were missing Emi Martinez and the 2 10s, but really the positions, like those 2 10s are wild cards anyway. You know, they're going to be given free roles and that kind of magic sauce to be able to do what needs to be done. But what we needed to do is we needed to have Ollie Watkins putting balls in the back of the net. We needed Douglas Luiz, Jacob Ramsey, and McGinn really nailing down how Steven Gerrard, Michael Beale, Tom Culshaw wants them to play, and Aaron Danks wants them to play in that midfield as a trio. Yeah. Because we were going from game to game there over the Christmas period without any break, and Steven Gerrard was trying to. Sorry, there was a break because obviously COVID and stuff like that, but it was games called off. But, you know, that meant that there was a lack of training ground was closed, yada, all that kind of stuff. So there were still disruptions. We've had 2 weeks without any disruptions. And we needed that because preseason was disrupted, start of the season was just disrupted, the middle of the first half of the season was disrupted by changing managers. So it couldn't have come at a better time, I don't think, for us, considering the 5 games that we've got going. So I'm kind of beginning to think that, look, Leeds have got players back, but we needed to get on the same page, I think.
And I think it was an important couple of weeks for the squad in general. They got a holiday for the first few days. There was a few of them in Dubai and partying and whatever, and they're perfectly entitled to that. And then they come back and the hard work came and they played a few games. Some of them were on international duty. I'm sure there was a lot of people there that got some minutes into their legs that really could do with it. And as we said earlier, there's going to be competition for places. At the moment, the team kind of picks itself. But if you put Leon Bailey into the mix, is Buendia looking over his shoulder? Is the striker looking over his shoulder? Who knows what that's going to bring? Like realistically, from Friday, the only player we're not going to have it in our squad is Marvelous Nakamba. So that's, you know, a clean bill of health as you're going to get. So, you know, these are important 2 weeks. We'll see where we're at. And Ad makes a really good point there. And I think this is the most important thing tomorrow. He says, I just hope we'll play in both halves rather than one half or the other. I don't think we can afford to do that against Leeds. I think we'll be punished. I think the intensity of their play will put us under a lot of pressure, but we have to be 100% on the ball tomorrow.
How do you think we're going to stop Rafinha, Paddy? He's good, like he's really good. He's one of the foreign players in the Premier League. Europe, even, you'd nearly go as far as to say.
He is, yeah. I listened to you on some other podcast last night, and you nearly forgot about him.
I was a podcast prostitute last night. The amount of podcasts I was on yesterday was nothing short of criminal.
Yeah, but look, there's no doubting he's their best player. I think whoever you were, was it a Leeds podcast I was listening to?
Yeah, I was on a couple of Leeds ones last night, and I did the Villa View as well, which was great crack.
Yeah, they said it was 17 million they paid for him. Like they would command multiples of that now if they were to sell him on. He's just turned into a smashing player. You know, no, I don't think anybody saw that coming when he came from Lille, but it's just the Premier League has just really suited him. So I'd be wary of him. I'd be wary of Dan James. I'd be wary of Click, as you say, who will probably play a little bit further on in that 4, which he has in the last few weeks. Stuart Dallas, thankfully, is playing a lot deeper because he scores a lot of goals from that midfield as well. Ayling always has a good game against us. I think Liam Cooper is a big miss. I think he's important to them offensively at set pieces. He always gets something on it, either to nod it down or flick it on or whatever. So I think he'll be a big miss. But look, I still think we've enough in the tank to go and beat these. It just comes down to that point that Ad makes. I think we need to play for 90 minutes tomorrow.
And we absolutely do, because like that's Leeds' thing. That's Leeds' shtick. That's their, like, that's the expectation is, you know, you play against certain teams, you expect them to play a certain way. You expect Leeds to go for 90 minutes, and if you don't match them stride for stride, well, then you've only got yourself to blame. And and that's what we're definitely going to have to do. And just on Stuart Dallas, it was an interesting one. If you guys didn't see the Villa View last night, myself and Christone had a good laugh, because Stuart Dallas from a place in North of Ireland called Cookstown, and they call him the Cookstown Cafu. And there's a sausage making factory in Cookstown, and Chris Dolan got a good laugh off the some of the old advertisements the Cookstown sausages used to have. If anybody isn't familiar with it, you can see a George Best advert for Cookstown sausages. Chris was telling me about it yesterday. It was it's actually pretty funny from back in the 60s.
He wasn't too impressed with Cookstown sausages.
No, he didn't. No, not at all. But I don't know.
When I work up north, I have Cookstown sausages, and I think they're pretty nice.
Well, there you go. There you go.
My office is not too far from Cookstown. I actually never knew I'm from there.
I'm racking my brains. Cookstown is in Tyrone, yeah?
It is.
Jesus, we could lose a lot of followers for this now if we don't get this right. Anyway, pass it on. We won't get into geographic. I was asking you.
No, it's definitely in Tyrone. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
It's about 10 miles from my office in Tyrone, yeah.
All right. A good thing my old geography teacher wasn't watching. She would have absolutely murdered me, because literally the only thing we came out of school with was knowing all the rivers, all the mountains, and where every single town was in the whole country of Ireland. So for me to doubt myself as to where Cookstown was, she'd be going absolutely nuts. Back to Leeds. Do you know what, Paddy? Over the last couple of weeks, and I know it's been done out of necessity more so than anything else, Leeds have played Rodrigo in a kind of a deeper position, a kind of a deep 10 position more so, and they've played Dan James up top in almost like a false 9. And do you think that they're going to go with something like that tomorrow?
Well, there's no other arrival since they did that, really, is there? There's nobody back from injury that was left out. That's what I was trying to figure out earlier on. Like they did a lot of names there on the bench. Klassen, Hoyja, Moore, Bate, Kenna, McCarran, McKinstry.
They're
like,
half of those won't be on
yeah,
the bench. You'll have Joe Gelhardt, you'll have Tyler Roberts, they're all
yeah.
back, and they're all flying.
They were the two names that they were the two that come off the bench, and the two that I recognised
Yeah.
In their last game where they lost to Newcastle, which was a pretty poor showing as well. So yeah, I would imagine we're going to see much of the same. That Dan James will kind of give a false nine, which will make them a bit harder to break down from playing the ball out from the back. But that remains to be seen how we handle that one. Do we go those diagonal balls again, which I don't want to see? But it might have to be a case of that they go long if they're going to be that kind of pressing that high up the pitch.
And I'm going to bring it back to Villa there for a moment, because we mentioned Leon Bailey on his way back, and once again, I'm just dragging this off topic every chance I get, Paddy. But that type of false nine, Leon Bailey in front of Coutinho and Buendia in some games, there's kind of something alluring about that with his absolute latent pace. Getting in behind teams, and I think it's something that maybe we might see, because I know before he got injured, I was saying maybe we might see him up top when we're playing a two-man strike force. But maybe we might see him in a false nine position under Gerrard. It's unlikely, maybe, but
I think it's very likely. I think realistically that's where he's going to fit in, because the way Buendia has been playing, the money we're playing for Coutinho, he's not going to drop either of them, and he's certainly not going to play as a left wing back in the system that we're in. So I can see any opportunity that he'll play off the shoulder of the last defender and try and take that slide rule pass through. Absolutely, that's exactly where I can see him. And if we can drag a back four higher up the pitch, the likes of Leon Bailey will have a field day.
I think so. I look, it's something to think about anyway. I'm a bit of a fan of a more traditional striker than the false nine. I'm not a huge fan of it. Specific, there's okay. Look, Spain made it a thing playing Fabregas up there, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Fabregas that played up in the front nine. But like, their style of play really, really suited it, and that was one of the best international teams of all time. So I wouldn't need to be won over, is what I'm saying, by it, but I would be easily won over, as I always am. Always easily won over with that. Paddy, Leeds as well. Leeds they're kind of in a precarious enough position, as I said. They didn't bring anybody in, as you mentioned previously, but Bielsa obviously famously is only on a 1-year rolling contract. That's kind of the way he works, and he's not getting any younger, So, what do we think like the future kind of holds for Leeds? Like you mentioned, all these young players. At some stage, you're going to have to go and they're going to have to bring in players to complement that. Now, obviously, they don't have them for this game, but they have gone and done it previously in the likes of Rodrigo, I mentioned him, or Lorente, or Robin Koch, who's come in, who is still young himself. But, the makeup of their team, and I suppose what I'm trying to get at here is that the makeup of the team that we're going to see out there tomorrow, it's one of the more strange makeups of a team, I think, over the course that you'll see in the Premier League, with the two kind of elder statesmen, two fullbacks who come up through the English football pyramid in Ayling and Dallas, and then like in two positions where you need lightning fast people, real dogged workhorses. It's just a weird makeup of a team. Is that fair to say?
He doesn't seem to he doesn't seem to buy into big squads at all. He keeps everything tight, and as a result, in a season like this, it amazed me he didn't bring anybody in January after the December they had trying to get players onto the pitch and being totally caught out by it. They missed a good bit of time through COVID, didn't they? They had a bit of catching up to do. I know we had our match off, but I think there was previous matches off as well. So, yeah, when you've got a tight squad like that, you got to expect to have problems. But I think I read in one of the books written about him was that his belief was that if you get players so fit to a certain level, they don't pick up muscle injuries. So the only injuries you've got to worry about is players getting sick or players getting physically ripped apart a la John Joe Shelby in the first half tonight. So they're the injuries that they pick up. So he's got to. He's got to.
I think the sports science fraternity will go completely against that train of thought, but
Oh, of course. Well, I would
you're
imagine
right.
so, but that's obviously the way he's gone about it, and the same things like when they did get promoted, there was very little injuries, and that's what he was basing it on. It was all down to the guys he had around him and the fitness coaches he had around him. Apparently, there's more fitness coaches than anything else that come with Bielsa. So he's the tactician, and he just has guys around him to get the players up to the level of the speed of what they need to be. So.
Yeah.
He's a strange character, as you say. He's on a 1 year rolling contract. He doesn't strike me as the guy that's going to go anywhere, especially after a poor season like this.
So I don't know.
I think he'd hang around, do another season just to try and better himself. That just seems to be like. I remember we discussed this previously. They took a hammer in a few weeks back, and he just looked a broken man in the interview. But I think they came out and won the next game after it. So. That's the kind of guy you're talking about, but we just don't know what Leeds are going to turn up tomorrow, and that's my only concern at the moment. And we haven't played them at all this season.
And it would take it it would take a ballsy general manager or owner to sack Marcelo Bielsa.
Yeah.
Literally, he's there as long as he needs, as long as he wants to be in Yorkshire, he's going to be in Yorkshire.
Well, I think provided they don't get relegated, I think that's the only way he'd be sacked.
I don't think he'd even be sacked at that, because we go on about, we wouldn't have signed Philippe Coutinho only for Steven Gerrard. Bielsa is the ace is the ace up their sleeve. So it's not like they could be like I'm going to say Chelsea and get rid of Ancelotti or Rafa Benitez, and when he was in his prime, or Mourinho, when he was in his prime and stuff like that, just because results weren't going their way. I think they're I think for a lot of it that they understand what he brings in his philosophy and his well respectedness to even player maybe not so much player acquisition. Well, no, that's probably the wrong thing to say, because player acquisition would be something like this. He's brought in Rafinha, he's brought in Rodrigo, he's brought in Diego Llorente, Strike and Robin Koch, and Melier in goals, so whether they were his or not, he's been the coach that's used them. So you can see that there is a blend of bringing in really good young players there, and also the likes of Rodrigo to play up top. So there is an allure behind Bielsa.
He's a very trusting manager as well. You take the likes of Melier, for example, who was absolutely awful when he came in at the start, but he left him there. He let him find his feet and find his way in the league. And he has turned out to be quite a good signing. So that's the kind of old school management that that Bielsa is. Like, he's an old man at this stage. It amazes me the way he gets down on his hunkers like that on the side of the pitch. I think I'm not quite half his age. I'm more than half his age, but I think if I got down like that, I'd struggle to get back up.
I think I am half his age, Paddy. I'm at that. Marcelo Bielsa, just for. I need to know this. No, Jesus, no, I'm not. I'm not too far off it, though. Not too far off half his age.
How old is he?
66 only. I thought he was in his 70s.
So did I.
I thought he was in his 70s, yeah.
So did I.
But, he should still be playing. He should still be playing at 66. What's wrong with him? Quitter. What a quitter.
Shocked at that one.
Right.
Kieran fancies us to win 3-1 tomorrow. It will be absolutely rocking. It will be, Kieran. You must have missed the start, because I said I would absolutely love to be going there tomorrow, but midweek is a bit of a stretch. Plus, I'm going to Paris on Friday for the rugby, so money didn't stretch to go to Villa Park this week.
Never hear the likes of it before. Rugby. Think you know someone like, yeah? All of a sudden he's off to Paris.
Well, is rugby an excuse to go to Paris for Valentine's weekend? That's what I was asked today.
Oh, I forgot about Valentine's weekend. Jeez, I forgot about Valentine's weekend, and it's my better half's birthday as well. Oh, Jesus, I'm going to have to get Googling once I finish this podcast.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Cut that bit out. But look, Paddy, you're all romantic, taking her off, whisking her off to the Arc de Triomphe and the Eiffel Tower for the weekend. Look, we could all learn an awful lot from Paddy.
But the question is she whisking me or am I whisking her?
Well,
that's
Paddy,
the big question.
You have an audience you have an audience here now, so
And she's probably
you're
we
the
should
only one who
probably
can
watch
tell
it
us that
ourselves,
one.
but she booked it.
Yeah, she booked. Did she book it with your credit card or with hers? That's the thing. It's because...
Don't go there.
Enough said. Enough said. Yeah, I think we've kind of done what we need to do here in the Leeds and Villa preview. It's kind of a strange one. I myself always find that my mind wanders when there's been a break. Look, everyone says your mind wanders every podcast we do, but when there's been a break in kind of proceedings, my mind wanders because I've had a lot of time to think about what if this and what happens when this person comes back. And, you never really have a set trend that you can say, well, the last 2 games we played this and now we're going to play that because of all the players that are back. So I sometimes struggle. I really find these ones difficult to do. And then when you throw Leeds into the mix because they're such a kind of a wild card of a team anyway, it's a very difficult preview to do. So a lot of it is hypothetical. But I myself think that Villa are going to win. I know you don't do predictions till you see the team and the team sheet tantrum, but I am. I did 4 predictions in 4 different podcasts yesterday, and I went with 3-1 on all of them, Aston Villa. And I think the Villa are going to come out and they're going to bare their teeth tomorrow. I think that they've been working massively on attacking intent. I think that Ollie Watkins scoring goals in the 2 closed doors games are that's pivotal. I think that's really good. I think confidence for him is huge and he needs confidence. But I've said it before, I think he needs to be told what to do and when to do it. I don't think he's a spontaneity type player. Not in the Premier League anyway. I know when you look at him in some of the things in the Championship he did was very spontaneous, but I think in the Premier League he needs to have that small bit more of a structure to either play on the shoulder of people. I think Dean Smith gave him that. And I think we were unbelievably well structured, even though we had Ross Barkley in the team. We were unbelievably well structured for the start of the 2021 season. The 2021 season, and that's where Watkins got most of his goals because he got a lot of his goals against the top teams. So you need to be disciplined there. So hoping that that's going to be the case for him, and I think he's going to nick a goal or 2 tomorrow. Aurelio says his first game at Villa Park for a decade, maybe nervous, excited, and terrified. Don't be, just have a few pints. You'll be the nerves and excitement, and then I'll merge into one. You'll be great.
Is it 10 years since Aurelio Gomez played in Villa Park? Maybe it is.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
I'm sure that's a pseudonym, but best of luck, Aurelio. I hope you have a great day.
Exactly. Yeah.
And more importantly, I hope you get 3 points.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And 3 points too would be nice.
3 points per goal, and we scored 10 goals. That'll be a nice day out. Right, lads, we're going to leave it at that. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching and for listening. I completely forgot. Paddy, it's your fault. I told you this during the week. This podcast is brought to you in conjunction with a podcast partner. It's the Spond application. You guys have heard me talk about it before. The Spond app is for if you've got a team, an organization, anything. If you're trying to get a group of people together, the Spond app is the one for you. Download it on iOS or on Android. It's completely and utterly free. You can set up invitations, you can set up group events, you can accept payments on it as well. It really is an all-encompassing app, and it's fantastic. I use it myself, as you guys know, so have a look at it. That's all I'm asking. It's a free app on iOS or on Android, and download it. And thank you so much to Spond for being a podcast partner on this podcast. So with that, guys, thanks so much for watching and for listening. We're going to leave it at that. We're going to be back tomorrow in some sort of an iteration for a team sheet tantrum, and we will also be back afterwards for a review of the game, hopefully talking about an Aston Villa win. But until then, everybody, stay safe, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.